bottom of the barrel kind of stuff, but at least some things.
Ah yes, bottom of the barrel. Here's bottom of the barrel. You totally omitting reasoning. That's bottom of the barrel. You are bottom of the barrel, sockman.
Oh, sorry, Bob. I see an SOS on the beach. I conclude rationally must have been intended. But if I see DNA, oh no, it could not have been intended. Or else there's a God, and then I go to hell for being selfish. I want to get away with being selfish. That's the real reason I'm an atheist. Science has nothing to do with it. It's all about my ego.
Let's take a quick walk through the thought process you've made up for us here. So an atheist sees the world and goes, yep, obviously there was all kinds of intention and there was a God behind this.
Yeah, an SOS. When you see an SOS, hypocrite, you know it's intended. So higher levels of order are also intended, but you're a hypocrite. You're a shameless hypocrite, sockman.
Nothing ever happens unless somebody intends for it.
Ultimately, nothing happens unless God lets it. However, in the situation taken out of the context of all of time, then some things can happen without intention. So you did a strawman fallacy there.
For it too, for some reason, I believe all of that. And that means, somehow, that I must be going to hell.
No! If there is a God, you need to do His way, not your way. And if there is a God, then that gives room for the God to be the one in the Bible. Now, I'd prove the one in the Bible in my series Crushing Atheist Myths. So, it's not circular reasoning. And why wouldn't there be a hell for the wicked? If there is a God, as I prove there is, then this God cares about us because He gave us sight. Deism of an indifferent God doesn't make sense because an indifferent God wouldn't have made us in the first place. He wouldn't have given us great gifts like the mouth you use to speak against God and so forth. As for people who are born blind, for example, well, let's say an atheist woman smokes when she's pregnant. Her baby comes out deformed. Atheists blame God for what the atheist did wrong. You need to take responsibility for your own actions, atheists. Man ruined the world, not God. God let it happen because love cannot be forced, so God had to allow for evil to exist, for rebellion to exist, and that has consequences, like death.
Because intentional design of the universe implies a God that sends people to hell. I don't know.
In that talk of mine, I was skipping some of my reasoning. Why? Because it's not actually the point of the video. But let's face it, a lot of atheists are atheists not because they reject Zeus, but because they reject the God of the Bible, the God who will have you burned forever for being an ingrate, because He doesn't tolerate shit. For now it seems He tolerates things only because He allows there to be consequences for choices without which there are no choices, and He allows choices without which there is no love. So one of the things atheists always tell me for why they're atheists is because they can't believe that there's a God who sends people to hell, because if there is a God, He has to do things their way because they're narcissists.
But I want to be selfish. And, I mean, the God doesn't send people to hell for being selfish. He sends them for not believing in Him, but still.
Not believing in Him is selfish. If you don't believe in Him, you're a liar. Because there's no rational reason to reject the Creator. You have not given one. All you've done is strawman me and lie, and run away from my actual argument, focusing on strawman, changing the subject when convenient for your narrative. And over 3,000 not smart atheists go along with this shit because they want to believe that I'm wrong. They want to believe atheists are right. They want to believe there is no God, because if there is no God, do as thou wilt. That is a consequence of it. Don't deny that. It's an obvious truth. Atheism is the opium of criminals who want to get away with evil when they die.
Well, selfishness is involved here somehow. And
of course it is. It's the same reason that Nazi scientists chose to be Nazis. It's selfish. They could have acceptance from their society if they became Nazis at that time when Nazis were in control. And they could get funding if they follow the racist narrative. Of course selfishness has to do with this. You think scientists are robots? You idolize your false prophets, the white coats. They're just as fallible as any other mortal. ill-Logicked.
And that's my priority now. I don't want to go to hell not for being selfish. That's a terrible fate. How do I avoid this? Let me think. Okay, one.
The avoiding is to believe that there is nothing to avoid. That's the avoidance. You want to believe that you can get away with being selfish when you're dead. If there is no God, you can get away with being selfish when you're dead. That's why atheism is so appealing to criminals and cowards and liars like you. You're an ingrate. That makes you a criminal. By a higher standard than your cherry-picked, self-righteous ethics system.
God tells me to do to not go to hell. Seems pretty simple, and I believe that's true and necessary, and that's the only way to not go to hell. But I don't know, my ego, I got this ego. I think what I'm going to do is just pretend like I don't believe it and make up a bunch of science.
But you do believe that an SOS requires intention, so you actually do know that higher levels of order also do. Applying the standard across the board, or else you're a massive hypocrite. But you want to lie to yourself that you're not a hypocrite. You're smart enough to know atheism is wrong. You're not smart enough to just reject atheism because there's no merit in it.
That very convincingly makes it appear that everything that people used to say God did wasn't really caused by God.
Ill-Logicked commits a hasty generalization fallacy. Some things have been explained by a god or gods, but now science explains them. So science can potentially explain everything in time. Is the gist of what he's saying there. Ill-Logicked is arguing some, therefore all, which is the same logic racists use. Some blacks are bad, so all are, they would say. Earlier in this series, I proved that the mind is metaphysical, so it is impossible for science, the study of nature, to be able to explain all. Atheist sci-fi, however, can try to explain all, but not rationally. These deluded atheists don't even have a plausible falsification scenario for their magical atheist alchemy of slime into Frankenslime to prove it is even a scientific explanation. They have no science. Hollywood promotes the stupid atheist alchemy fable.
And I'm going to spend all my time, along with millions of other people who are atheists and also Christians and Muslims and every other religion, painstakingly researching this and vetting every detail against reality.
Oh yes, because you are the judge of reality. You don't accept reality because you know an SOS is intentional. You would not be stupid enough to say erosion did it. You know it requires intention. Therefore, higher levels of order also do. Bam. That's it. Atheism has no merit. If it did, there would be no need for intelligent design. But because there is a need for intelligent design, atheism is garbage. Intelligent design is rational. Science proves it.
And then I'm still going to go to hell, but I'll pretend that I'm not, and then that helps the situation somehow.
Now, you actually can believe that there is no hell, of course. You can actually believe your lies. So you believe there is no hell. But you know that if there is no God, then you can live selfishly. Because you will get away with it if society condones of what you do or doesn't catch you and punish you for it. You know these implications are real. Don't pretend otherwise. Also, atheism justifies all evil, you hypocrite. You have no right to judge anyone as evil or not. Like you would say that God is a tyrant for sending people to hell, for not believing in him, for rejecting his authority. Atheism justifies all evil by the nature made me do it implication, because if we are not spirits from a great spirit, now, and if we were spirits without a great spirit to make us, then we would be gods, being spirits without an origin. That would make us gods. So either we're gods as spirits, or we're spirits from a great spirit who is a god. Since atheism doesn't allow for a god, it doesn't allow for spirits by that reasoning. And if they're, in that case, we're just bags of flesh walking around. We're just physical things entirely, slaves to physics. Physics makes us do everything. We're puppets of nature if there is no God. And if we're puppets of nature, nature made us do it. If nature makes us do something, it's not our fault because we had no choice. We're forced by nature to do it. You don't blame Kermit for what the puppet master made him do.